I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. My name is Diane Bennett, and this is the story of how my son wished me dead and what I did about it. He looked me dead in the eyes, his voice calm like he was asking for extra gravy at dinner, and said, "The best Christmas gift would be if you just died." That was my son, my only child. So I gave him exactly what he wanted, but not before I canceled their mortgage, drained every account he'd stolen from, and left something on his desk that made his perfect little life collapse in seconds. You want your mother dead? Be careful what you wish for. It happened 3 days before Christmas in the house I helped buy, but never truly belonged in. I was folding towels in the laundry room, steam rising from the dryer as I stacked the warm fabric into a neat pile. The door was cracked open just enough. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop. I wish I hadn't. Matthew's voice came through low and bitter. Honestly, the greatest gift this year would be if she just died. My hands froze mid-fold. I stared at the red towel in my hands like it had turned to glass. Lauren's voice followed, casual, like they were discussing what to have for dinner. You said it, not me. The silence that came after was worse than the words themselves. My son, my only child. I waited, heart pounding, hoping he'd laugh it off. Say he was joking. Say anything that would erase what I'd just heard. But he didn't. He just sighed. It's exhausting, her being here all the time. We can't keep doing this. I pressed my palm to the counter to steady myself. The towel slipped to the floor. I didn't care. She's not dying anytime soon, Lauren said with a sigh of her own. Guess we'll just have to suck it up until then. I backed away from the door before I screamed or cried or collapsed. My knees barely held me up as I climbed the stairs to the in-law suite they so generously let me live in. My room, the one they never let me decorate. The one without locks. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing until my vision blurred. My fingers reached for the notebook I kept in the drawer beside the bed. The one with grocery lists and reminders to refill my blood pressure medication. I turned to a fresh page and wrote it down word for word. The greatest gift this year would be if she just died. I read it again, then again, trying to convince myself I'd misheard. But I hadn't. My own son, the baby I carried through 28 hours of labor, wished me dead so he could have a more peaceful Christmas. The man who'd cried at his father's funeral and called me his hero. The boy who once made me a Mother's Day card that said, "Even when I'm a grown-up, I'll take care of you like you take care of me." I thought about all the times I'd left extra money in his kitchen drawer when they were tight that month. The babysitting, the groceries, the 6 figures I gave them to buy this house. All of it meaningless now. I looked around my small space. The off-white walls they wouldn't let me paint, the single dresser, the folded blankets in the corner for when Emma and Noah wanted a sleepover with Grandma. They hadn't wanted one in months. My throat tightened, but no tears came. Just an ache, a deep hollow ache that spread through my chest and settled into my bones. It hadn't always been like this. Matthew used to call me every day after Thomas died. He'd check in, bring me dinner, ask about my day. "Mom, you shouldn't be alone," he'd said. "Move in with us. We've got the perfect space, and the kids would love having you around." I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. I sold the home Thomas and I had built together. Our sanctuary with the rose garden I'd tended for 20 years and the kitchen where I'd taught Matthew to bake. I gave them $120,000 for the down payment on this house, with the understanding my name would be on the deed too. Just in case, Thomas would have said. Thomas, if he could see me now. I stood and walked over to the closet, opened it, stared at the suitcases I hadn't touched since moving in 3 years ago. The small one still had the airline tag from the cruise I canceled when Matthew lost his job. I bent down, unzipped it, and pulled out the envelope I'd taped inside the lining years ago. The one labeled Plan B in Thomas's handwriting. Thomas always said, "Trust people with your heart, not your money." I hadn't listened when he was alive, but I remembered his words now as I took out the co-ownership contract and the deed with my name still on it. Matthew never filed the updated paperwork, never paid the lawyer to finalize removing me. Said he'd get to it. He never did. I pressed the paper flat on the bed. My hands didn't shake anymore. They felt steady, calm, like they finally remembered how to protect me. I picked up the pen and wrote 4 more words under Matthew's quote. "I heard you, Matthew. I stayed in that room most of the night, barely blinking. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice again. The greatest gift this year would be if she just died." My own son. I didn't know what stung more, those words, or the way Lauren didn't even flinch when he said them, like it was just true, like my death would be a relief. The next morning I sat at the kitchen island sipping lukewarm coffee, pretending my stomach wasn't twisting in knots. Matthew walked in first, rubbing his eyes like a child who'd overslept. "Morning," he muttered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I might scream. Lauren followed in her usual matching athleisure set and full makeup, barely glancing at me as she scrolled on her phone. I watched them move around the kitchen like nothing had happened, like they hadn't shattered me the night before. "You okay?" Matthew finally asked. "You look pale." "Just tired," I said. "I didn't sleep much." "You should try melatonin," Lauren offered without looking up. "It works wonders." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to stand up and ask, "Does melatonin fix having a son who wants you dead?" Instead, I stirred my coffee and nodded. My eyes drifted to the living room where the Christmas tree blinked softly. Emma and Noah had made paper snowflakes last week and taped them to the windows. I'd helped. I always helped. Every year since I moved in, I made sure the holidays felt magical for them. Stockings, crafts, even the stupid matching pajamas Lauren insisted on for Instagram. 3 years ago, when Matthew called in tears after his loan fell through, I sold my home. My home, the one their father and I built together. I wired $120,000 to his account that same week. And when the realtor asked whose name was going on the deed, I said both. Matthew promised I'd always have a place. "You'll live with us," he said. "The kids will love having you close." I believed him. I moved into the in-law suite with nothing but 2 suitcases and Thomas's favorite chair. Lauren didn't want any of my old furniture in the house. She said it didn't match her aesthetic. Now I couldn't walk into a room without asking permission. Don't move the couch. Don't rearrange the pantry. Don't use that bathroom when we have guests. I was a ghost in the house I paid for. A silent, careful ghost who folded towels and paid for groceries and bit her tongue every time Lauren rolled her eyes. "Can you pick up the kids from school today?" Matthew asked, shaking me out of my thoughts. "Lauren's got a nail appointment and I need to take the car in." "Sure," I said like I always did. My voice was steady, but inside I was crumbling. I took another sip of coffee just to have something to do with my hands. He looked at me, really looked at me. "Are you mad about something?" "Why would I be mad?" I asked. "No reason. You just seem off." "I'm fine," I said. "Just let me know what time." He nodded and left the room. Lauren didn't say a word. She just stood by the fridge eating yogurt straight from the container and texting with her acrylics tapping against the screen. I wanted to smash that phone against the wall. Instead, I picked up the mugs, washed them in silence, and wiped down the counters. My chest ached, but I kept moving. That's what mothers do. We keep moving. I went upstairs to the guest room, my room, and opened the drawer with the documents I hadn't looked at in years. The deed, the co-ownership agreement, the notarized letter from the lawyer. They never filed to remove my name. They said it wasn't necessary, that we were family. I stared at my signature, so neat, so trusting. My reflection in the window looked older than I remembered, tired. I touched the edge of the paper and whispered, "Maybe it's time I remembered whose name is still on this house." When I went to pick up Emma and Noah from school that afternoon, I put on a smile. Emma, 8 years old with her father's eyes, hugged me tight. "Grandma, did you make cookies today?" "Not today, sweetie," I said, "but we can make some tomorrow if you want." "Mom says too many cookies make you fat," Noah said matter-of-factly. He was 5, repeating everything he heard. "Your mom says lots of things," I replied, keeping my voice light. I helped them into the car, listening to Emma talk about her science project, while Noah kicked his feet against the seat. These children were the only reason I'd stayed as long as I had. The thought of not seeing them every day made my heart ache worse than Matthew's words. When we got home, Lauren was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up. "Did you get them a snack?" "We'll have apple slices," I said, guiding the children to the kitchen. "Not on the couch," Lauren called after us. "They'll make a mess." I bit my tongue and smiled at my grandchildren. "Let's eat at the table like civilized people, shall we?" That night, after the children were in bed, I sat on the edge of my mattress and thought about Thomas. What would he tell me to do? I could almost hear his voice, calm and steady. "Diane, you know what to do. You've always known." And I did. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, just holding that deed like it was the last piece of proof that I hadn't imagined all the years I'd given, all the sacrifices I'd made. My fingers moved without thinking as I reached into the drawer where I kept old mail, the kind no one ever bothers to open unless something's gone wrong. The top envelope had the mortgage company's logo on it. I tore it open slowly, not because I was nervous, but because deep down I already knew it wouldn't be good. "Past due." I read the words twice, then again just to be sure. They were 3 months behind. 3. I stood up fast, like my body couldn't sit with that kind of betrayal. I walked over to the tiny desk in the corner of my room and opened my laptop. I hadn't checked the bank account in a while, the one I set up when I first moved in, just in case they needed help. I stopped keeping track after the 2nd year because Matthew always acted like my money was just there if needed. Apparently, it had been needed repeatedly, thousands gone. Quiet little withdrawals Matthew made without ever asking. The joint account I opened to help with emergencies had become his personal ATM. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the numbers, sick to my stomach. Groceries, utilities, random charges from home improvement stores. I wasn't just living with them, I was funding them. Every time I thought I was helping, I was actually just cleaning up their mess in silence. I heard the front door open downstairs. Lauren's voice floated up, too loud and too happy for someone who couldn't pay the mortgage. "The shoes came! Finally!" Matthew laughed in response. "Don't tell my mom, she'll freak." "She's not even up here," Lauren said. "She's always in her little cave." My hands curled into fists. I walked to the stairwell and stood where they couldn't see me. "That emergency account is empty," Matthew said, completely drained. "I checked this morning." "What about her other one?" Lauren asked. "The one you said she uses to buy Christmas gifts? She barely uses it. She's old school, still writes checks for everything. Maybe she won't even notice if you pull a little. We're only talking a few hundred." "That's not the point," he snapped. I waited for him to follow that up with something that sounded like regret. He didn't. He just added, "I'll figure something out." I backed away before they saw me. I sat back down at the desk, heart pounding so hard it was difficult to breathe. I clicked into the other account, the one I hadn't touched since Thomas died. My small safety net, just over $18,000 still there, untouched, hidden from them. Because for once, I'd listened to my gut instead of my heart. I closed the laptop and stood, pacing the room, whispering to myself, "You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. They've been bleeding you dry." My head buzzed with questions I didn't want answers to. How many times had I bailed them out without even knowing it? How many groceries were bought with my card? How many bills paid just this once with money I wasn't supposed to touch? I thought that was the worst of it. But then I heard Matthew's voice behind me. "Hey, Mom, you got a second?" I turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, all fake smiles and easy charm. "Sure," I said, keeping my voice even. "What's going on?" "Lauren and I were thinking maybe after the holidays we could talk about rearranging some of the finances just to make things smoother." "Smoother for who?" I asked. "For all of us," he said quickly. "I mean, you've got money sitting in that emergency account. Maybe we should consolidate. Put everything under one umbrella so nothing falls through the cracks and you can manage it." "Well, yeah," Lauren chimed in from the hallway. "I mean, I already handle most of the bills. It just makes sense." I let the silence hang there long enough for Matthew to shift uncomfortably. "I'll think about it," I said. "But that money is still mine." "Of course," he said. "I just meant—" "No," I cut in. "You meant what you said, and I heard you. All of it." He blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I said quietly. "I just need some air." I walked past him, down the stairs and out the front door before I lost it. The cold December air hit me hard, but I didn't care. I walked around the block trying to calm the storm building in my chest. Every step felt like a countdown. I wasn't the one falling apart anymore. They were. And they had no idea how close I was to walking away and taking everything with me. I walked until my legs burned. When I came back, no one asked where I'd gone. Matthew was on the couch watching a game. Lauren was in the kitchen lighting one of those overpriced candles she loves to post online. I went straight to my room, locked the door, and pulled out the envelope I'd taped under the bottom drawer 3 years ago. Thomas's handwriting was still on the label. Plan B. My heart ached just seeing it. He always said to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. I hadn't thought I'd ever need this. I opened it slowly, like it might explode. Inside was everything. Copies of the co-ownership deed, letters from the lawyer, a list of the account numbers he made me keep separate. He'd insisted we protect ourselves, even from family. Especially from family, he warned. I hated him for being right. What most people didn't know about Matthew was that this wasn't the first time. When Thomas was diagnosed with cancer, Matthew had asked to be added to our checking account, just in case. 3 weeks later, $5,000 was gone. Thomas had been furious. He'd confronted Matthew, who'd broken down in tears, claiming his business was failing and he was too ashamed to ask for help. Thomas had forgiven him, but made him sign a repayment agreement and removed his access to our accounts. "People show you who they are," Thomas had told me. "Believe them the first time." I didn't. I thought Matthew had changed. I thought grief had matured him. But Thomas knew better. That's why he created Plan B. That's why he made sure I knew exactly what to do if history repeated itself. And now it had. I dug deeper into the envelope and found a small yellowed note card in Thomas's handwriting. "Diane, if you're reading this, I'm gone and someone's trying to take advantage of you. Remember what I always said. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. You're stronger than you think. Call Eleanor. She has everything ready. I love you." To Eleanor Graves had been our lawyer for decades. She'd helped draft our will, handled Thomas's estate, and advised us on the house purchase with Matthew. I called her number, not caring that it was nearly 9 p.m. She picked up on the third ring. Diane? Is everything okay? I need to know if the paperwork we filed on the house is still valid, I said. The one with my name on the deed. She paused. Of course it is. You never signed the removal. Matthew never filed it. So I still legally own 40%? Yes. Why? What's happened? I sank into the chair and whispered, They want me dead, Eleanor. And they don't even hide it anymore. Her voice dropped. Tell me everything. I told her everything. The conversation I overheard, the drained accounts, the past due mortgage, and now they wanted control over my last savings account. They're not even pretending to care anymore. Diane, we can act. You have power here. You're not trapped. I don't want revenge, I said. I want out, but I want out on my terms. Then we draft a notice of intent to sell. I'll have it ready tomorrow. I closed my eyes. Make sure it goes to both of them. I want this to hit hard. As we discussed the details, I could feel something shifting inside me. The hurt was still there, but now there was something else too. Determination. Resolve. After we hung up, I opened my laptop again and checked my credit card statement. Sure enough, there were charges I didn't recognize. A $400 dinner at a restaurant I'd never been to, $250 at a liquor store, $700 at Nordstrom. Matthew had my credit card information, had probably taken it from my purse one day when I wasn't looking. Each purchase was a small betrayal, adding up to thousands. I canceled the card immediately. Then I checked my other accounts, changing passwords and setting up alerts for any withdrawals. I was just finishing when there was a soft knock at my door. Grandma? Are you awake? Emma. My heart softened immediately. I opened the door. I had a bad dream, she said, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Can I stay with you? I pulled her into a hug. Of course you can, sweetheart. As we lay in the darkness, Emma's breathing growing steady beside me, I wondered how I could bear to leave her. But how could I stay in a place where I was so clearly unwanted? Grandma, Emma whispered, half asleep. Why does Mommy say mean things about you? My heart stopped. What kind of mean things, Emma? She told Daddy you're a burden. What's a burden, Grandma? I swallowed hard. It's something heavy that someone has to carry. But you're not heavy, Emma protested. You're just Grandma. I kissed the top of her head. Go to sleep, sweetheart. Everything will be okay. But as she drifted off, I made a decision. I would not be their burden anymore. But I would not disappear quietly either. The next morning I woke before anyone else. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Emma, and went to my desk. I made a list of everything I needed to do. 1. Meet with Eleanor to sign the notice of intent to sell. 2. Book a flight. 3. Move my remaining money to a new account. 4. Pack essentials only. I had just finished the list when Matthew knocked on my door. Emma had gone back to her room. Mom, got a second? I opened the door. Yes? He looked uncomfortable. About yesterday. I didn't mean to upset you. It's just things are tight right now, and I thought maybe we could streamline our finances a bit. Things are tight because you've been 3 months behind on the mortgage, I said calmly. His face paled. You opened that letter? It was addressed to the homeowners. That includes me. Mom, I can explain. No need. I understand completely. You've been using my money to cover your expenses while buying Lauren designer shoes and going out to fancy dinners. How did you? I checked my credit card statement. Quite the spending spree you've been on. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like his father it made my heart ache. I was going to pay it all back. I just needed to get through this rough patch. Like you paid back the $5,000 you took from your father when he was dying of cancer? That hit home. He took a step back like I'd slapped him. That was different. I was young. I made mistakes. And now? What's your excuse now, Matthew? You're not young anymore. You're a grown man with children. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Lauren expects a certain lifestyle. The kids need things. The business isn't doing well, and I've got investors breathing down my neck. I nodded slowly. I see. And that justifies stealing from your mother? I wasn't stealing. I was borrowing. Without asking. Without telling me. That's stealing, Matthew. He looked away. What do you want me to say, Mom? That I'm sorry? Fine, I'm sorry. But what was I supposed to do? Let them turn off our electricity? Let the bank take our house? Our house, I repeated. The one I helped pay for. The one I still legally own part of. His eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done being your personal ATM. I'm done being treated like a burden in my own home. So what, you're going to throw us out on the street? Your own grandchildren? I shook my head. No, Matthew, I'm giving you a choice. You can either buy out my share of the house, or we can sell it and split the proceeds according to the original agreement. We don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you start looking for somewhere else to live. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe this was the first time he was seeing me as a person with feelings and rights, not just his mother who would give and give until there was nothing left. You're bluffing, he said finally. I smiled, a small, sad smile. Call Eleanor if you don't believe me. The paperwork is already being drawn up. His face darkened. You've been planning this. All this time, you've been plotting behind our backs. No, Matthew, you've been stealing behind my back. I'm just protecting what's mine. He turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I could hear him stomping down the stairs, calling for Lauren. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone. I had a call to make. I called the airline and used the points I'd been collecting for a decade. The woman on the other end sounded cheerful when she said, "And where will you be flying, Ms. Bennett?" Paris. My voice didn't shake. One way. I'd always wanted to go to Paris. Thomas had promised we'd go for our 40th anniversary. He died 3 months before. After I booked the flight, I packed my suitcase. Not in a panic, not because I was scared, but because I was done. I folded each piece of clothing like I was folding away the version of me that tolerated too much for too long. I packed light. Just the essentials. 1 suitcase, 1 handbag, my passport. I wasn't running away. I was moving forward. As I zipped the suitcase, Matthew knocked again. Mom, got a second? I kept packing. Sure. He stepped in, saw the suitcase, and frowned. Going somewhere? Thinking about it. Is this about earlier? Look, I was just frustrated. Things are tight right now. I know they are, I said without looking at him. That's why I'm leaving. You don't have to do that. No, I turned and met his eyes. I really do. Is this about the money? Mom will figure it out. You don't need to stress. I tilted my head. So why did you empty the joint account? He blinked. It was an emergency. Which one? The mortgage, the credit cards, or Lauren's new shoes? Don't do this, he said, voice getting sharper. We're family. You stopped treating me like family the day you said my death would be a gift. His face went pale. You heard that? Every word. I walked past him and opened the top drawer, pulled out the legal envelope and handed it to him. What's this? My answer. I watched his hands shake as he opened it. You're forcing a sale, or we can buy you out. Your choice. You can't be serious, Mom. I'm flying to Paris in 2 days. Believe me, I've never been more serious. He stared at the paper. We don't have that kind of money. Then you better find it because Plan B is already in motion. Plan B? What are you talking about? Your father knew this day might come. He prepared me for it. He knew you, Matthew. Better than I did. Matthew's face crumpled. You're doing this now? At Christmas? You made it very clear what kind of Christmas gift you wanted from me. He threw the papers on the bed. Fine. Do whatever you want, but don't expect to come back when you realize you've made a mistake. Don't expect to see the kids. That hurt more than anything, but I kept my face neutral. Using your children as weapons. You really are your father's son. Leave Dad out of this. I can't. He's the reason I'm finally standing up for myself. Matthew stormed out again. I could hear him and Lauren arguing downstairs, their voices rising and falling like a stormy tide. I finished packing, then sat down at the desk one more time. I wrote 3 letters, one for Emma, one for Noah, and one for the woman I used to be. To Emma, I explained that I wasn't leaving because of her, that I loved her more than all the stars in the sky, and that I would always be just a phone call away. I included a special necklace that had been my mother's. To Noah, I left a model airplane Thomas had built, and a promise that when he was a little older, I would take him to see the real thing. I told him to be brave and kind, and to remember that Grandma loved him. To myself, I wrote a reminder of why I was doing this. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Because I deserved better. Because Thomas would have wanted better for me. I sealed each letter and tucked them away in my handbag. I would give them to the children before I left. That afternoon, Eleanor called. It's done, she said. The notice has been sent to both Matthew's and Lauren's emails. They have 30 days to respond. Thank you, Eleanor. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. It's like, once I made the decision, a weight lifted. That's the weight of finally respecting yourself, Diane. Thomas would be proud. After we hung up, I went downstairs. The house was quiet. Matthew and Lauren must have gone out. The children were at school. I walked around the ground floor, touching things, saying goodbye in my own way. The kitchen where I'd taught Emma to make sugar cookies. The living room where Noah had taken his first steps. The dining room where we'd had our last Christmas as a family. I was in the middle of the living room when Lauren burst through the front door, face red with fury. What the hell is this? She demanded, waving her phone in my face. The email from Eleanor was on the screen. Exactly what it looks like, I said calmly. A notice of intent to sell. You can't do this. This is our home. It's my home too. At least it was supposed to be. She glared at me, her perfectly made-up face twisted with anger. I knew you were spiteful, but this is a new low. Spiteful? For wanting what's legally mine? You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see others happy. I laughed, a genuine laugh that seemed to throw her off balance. Is that what you tell yourself, Lauren? That I'm bitter? That I'm jealous of your happiness? You stole from me. You talked about my death like it would be a gift. And you think I'm the one with the problem? She took a step back. You heard that? I did. And I've seen the credit card statements too. Quite the shopping habit you have. Her face paled beneath her makeup. That was Matthew, not me. And you never benefited from it? Those designer shoes, the spa days, the nice dinners out? All paid for with my money. I didn't know, she said weakly. I don't believe you. But it doesn't matter now. What matters is what happens next. You're really going to throw us out? Make us homeless? No one's making you homeless, Lauren. You have options. Buy out my share or sell the house and use your portion to find somewhere new. With what money? She shrieked. We're drowning in debt. That's not my problem anymore. Maybe your Instagram followers can help you. I hear crowdfunding is very trendy these days. She stared at me, eyes wide with shock. Who are you? I'm Diane Bennett, Thomas's wife, Matthew's mother, and I'm finally done being your doormat." I walked past her, head held high, and went back to my room. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from exhilaration. I'd done it. I'd stood up for myself. And it felt right. I sat on the bed, took out my phone, and texted Catherine Montgomery, an old friend of Thomas's who lived in Paris. We'd stayed in touch over the years, Christmas cards and occasional emails. She'd offered me a place to stay many times since Thomas died. "Remember that guest room you said was always available? Is the offer still good?" Her reply came almost immediately. "For you? Always. When?" "2 days from now. Just for a while until I figure things out." "Stay as long as you need. I'll have wine waiting." I smiled at my phone. It had been so long since someone had simply been kind to me without expecting anything in return. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Matthew came home, tried to argue, then tried to bargain. When neither worked, he went silent, sullen, refusing to look at me. Lauren alternated between tearful pleas and venomous insults. I remained calm through all of it. Their emotions weren't my responsibility anymore. I woke up the next morning to the sound of Lauren screaming. At first, I thought something had happened to the children, but then I heard Matthew's voice from downstairs. "I don't know, okay? I paid it. Well, I thought I did." I walked to the top of the stairs and saw them both standing in the kitchen, faces red and wild. The Christmas tree in the living room was dark. No lights, no music, no fake fireplace crackling on the TV. It was December 23rd, and the power had been shut off. "This can't be happening," Lauren snapped, slamming the fridge door. "We have guests coming tomorrow. My mother is flying in from Chicago." "We'll figure it out," Matthew said. "Just calm down." Calm down. Did you forget to pay the electric bill? No, I thought, walking down the stairs slowly. Matthew saw me and froze. "You thought what?" I said. "That I'd pay it?" Matthew looked at me like a deer caught in headlights. "Mom, please. It's almost Christmas." "I'm aware of the date." Lauren turned on me. "Did you do this? Did you cancel our electricity?" "Not exactly. I just stopped paying your bills with my money." Matthew rubbed his forehead. "You're really doing this now? At Christmas?" "You told me the best Christmas gift would be if I died," I said. "This is me disappearing, just out of the way like you wanted." Lauren stared at me. "You can't just cancel payments without telling anyone." "You mean like you canceled my presence in this house months ago?" I walked over to the kitchen, opened the cabinet, and pulled down a wrapped tin of cookies I'd baked for the children. "You made your choice. I'm making mine." I placed the tin on the counter and turned back toward the stairs. "What are we supposed to tell the kids?" Matthew called after me. "They'll wake up tomorrow to a freezing house and no lights." "Maybe tell them the truth," I said. "That some gifts come with a cost and you ran out of credit." I spent the day finishing what little packing I had left. Folded sweaters, 2 scarves, 1 good coat. My passport was already tucked into the front pocket of my carry-on. Around 3 in the afternoon, I crept downstairs while they were arguing in the garage. I placed a small gift for each grandchild under the tree. Just 1 each. No ribbons, no glittery bags, just simple brown paper with their names written in thick marker. Inside each box was a letter from me. Not a goodbye, just loving memories, and a reminder that none of this was their fault. I went back upstairs and sat on the bed with the suitcase beside me. For the first time in weeks, I smiled, but deep down, something felt off. My phone buzzed just before dinner. Eleanor had emailed the official notice to Matthew's and Lauren's personal inboxes. Subject line, "Notice of intent to sell, Diane Bennett." The timing was perfect. The lights never came back on. Around 7, Lauren stormed into the kitchen, grabbed her car keys, and left without a word, Matthew followed her outside, yelling. I didn't go down. I stayed in my room, listening to them unravel, piece by piece. At 4 a.m., I rolled my suitcase quietly through the hallway and down the stairs. The house was dark and cold, and no one was awake. I stood in the entryway for a moment, hand on the door handle, heart pounding but steady. I opened the door slowly and stepped outside. Snow had started falling. Not much, just a thin, dusty layer on the front steps. I pulled the door shut behind me, walked to the edge of the driveway where the airport shuttle was already waiting. As I climbed in and shut the door, I looked back once. The tree in the window was still dark, not a single light blinking. That was their Christmas, and I hadn't even given them my real gift yet. I landed in Paris just past noon and didn't cry once on the flight. Not when the plane lifted off, not when the captain welcomed us to Charles de Gaulle, and not when the man beside me asked if I was meeting family. No, I'd said, pressing my lips into a smile. I left them behind. I wheeled my suitcase through the airport with steady hands and a quiet mind. The taxi ride to Catherine's apartment was long, but I didn't care. I watched the city blur past. Bright holiday banners fluttering across the buildings, people rushing in coats, lovers holding hands. No one knew who I was, and for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me. It comforted me. Catherine met me at the door of her beautiful Parisian apartment. She was just as I remembered her, tall, silver-haired, with kind eyes that saw too much. "Oh, Diane," she said, pulling me into a hug. "Thomas would be furious." I laughed against her shoulder. "He'd be plotting Matthew's financial ruin as we speak." "Well then," she said, taking my suitcase. "We'll just have to do it for him, won't we?" She showed me to the guest room, a real guest room with a lock on the door and walls painted a soft blue. "Stay as long as you like," she said, handing me the keys. "Mi casa es su casa." I thanked her and meant it. I unpacked just enough. 2 drawers, 1 small closet. I made a cup of tea, opened the window, and just sat. The street below bustled with life. A baker carried trays to his shop. A woman walked her tiny dog. Children ran to school with backpacks bouncing. Life kept moving. Somehow, that was the most comforting thought of all. That night I walked along the Seine with my coat zipped up to my chin. The air stung, but it made me feel alive. I wasn't floating in anyone's house anymore. I wasn't invisible. I was here. I'd barely closed the door behind me when my phone buzzed. Matthew, then Lauren, then Matthew again. Missed calls, messages. I didn't open them. I didn't have to. I already knew what they were saying. The next morning I opened my email and saw the one from Eleanor. Subject line, "You might want to read this." She'd forwarded the thread from the mortgage company. Matthew had called in a panic. The mortgage was in danger. They were in default. "Elaine Thomas is not responding," he wrote. "She must be traveling. She isn't part of the household anymore." Eleanor had responded simply, "Ms. Bennett remains a co-owner, and she is well within her rights to act accordingly." I read it twice, then sent Eleanor a message. "Please handle everything through legal channels. I'm unavailable for direct contact." I'd been watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle from the living room window when my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Matthew. It was the mortgage lender. I let it ring twice before answering. "Is this Ms. Diane Bennett?" "It is. We're calling regarding a co-owned property currently in arrears. We've received your legal filing, but we'd like to confirm your intentions moving forward." "My lawyer will handle everything," I said. "Please direct all communication to her." "Ms. Bennett, are you aware that the other party has expressed difficulty with the current payment obligations?" "Yes, I'm aware." "And you still wish to proceed with the intent to sell?" I stared out at the street below. "Yes, I do." After I hung up, I turned my phone over and placed it face down on the table. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was claiming space for the first time in years. I made a list on the back of a grocery receipt. One column was titled Things They Took, the other, What I Have Left. The first list was long. Time, money, trust, holidays, my voice, my place. The second list was shorter. Dignity, proof, control, a passport, and now Paris. The next morning, Eleanor emailed again. They're begging to negotiate. Are you ready? I didn't reply right away. I stood at the window again, fingers wrapped around my mug, watching the world move forward like I'd never existed in theirs. My son thought he could break me. But what he didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I wasn't just gone. I was building a life where their access had been revoked. One breath, one page, one email at a time. Back in America, Matthew was getting desperate. Eleanor forwarded me his increasingly frantic emails. Please tell my mother we need to talk. We can work this out. I understand she's upset, but this is our home. We have children. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Is that what she wants? Each message showed a man who still didn't understand. This wasn't about punishment. It was about boundaries. I spent Christmas Day with Catherine and her friends, a lively group of expatriates and locals who welcomed me without question. We ate too much food, drank good wine, and sang carols in 3 different languages. I didn't mention Matthew or Lauren once. That night, alone in my room, I finally checked my messages. 27 missed calls, 15 voicemails, 42 text messages. I started with the oldest voicemail. Mom, where are you? You can't just leave like this. The kids are asking for you. Call me back. The next. Mom, this is ridiculous. We need to talk about this like adults. The power's still out and it's freezing. Lauren's mom is here and we had to get a hotel room. And then the mortgage company called. They said you're forcing a sale? Mom, you can't do this. This is our home, the kids' home. Please call me. The desperation grew with each message. The last one was from earlier that day. Merry Christmas, Mom. The kids opened your gifts. Emma cried. Is that what you wanted? To make your grandchildren cry on Christmas? I hope you're happy with yourself. I deleted them all. The text messages were worse. Lauren had started civil, then devolved into insults and threats. Diane, please call us. We need to talk. I know you're upset, but this is extreme. You're destroying your son's life. Is that what you want? You bitter old witch. You're going to die alone and no one will care. My father's a lawyer. He says what you're doing is elder abuse. We'll have you declared incompetent. The last text made me laugh out loud. Eleanor would eat Lauren's father for breakfast. I sent one message to Eleanor. If they mention having me declared incompetent, remind them that I have full documentation of their financial abuse and theft. Let's see who a judge believes. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep in a bed that was all mine, in a room where no one questioned my right to exist. Catherine had lived in Paris for over 20 years. She knew the city like the back of her hand and seemed determined to show me all of it. We visited small museums and hidden cafes. We walked along less traveled streets and found tiny shops selling everything from antique books to handmade soaps. Thomas always said you would love it here, she said one day as we sat outside a cafe, watching people pass by. He talked about bringing you all the time. We had plans, I said. So many plans. She covered my hand with hers. Make new ones, Diane. That's what he would have wanted. A week after Christmas, Eleanor emailed again. They've hired a lawyer. Nothing to worry about, just standard procedure. I've attached their proposal. The proposal was laughable. Matthew wanted to buy out my share of the house for a fraction of its value, with payments spread out over 10 years. They're stalling, Eleanor wrote. I've rejected their offer and reiterated our terms. They have 23 days left to respond with a reasonable proposal. I forwarded the email to Catherine, who'd become my sounding board. They're hoping you'll crack, she replied, that you'll get homesick or feel guilty and come crawling back. She was right. Matthew knew all my buttons. He'd been pushing them his whole life. But I wasn't the same woman who left that dark house on Christmas Eve. I was stronger, more resolved. I called Eleanor. No negotiations on the price. They pay market value or we sell. Understood, she said. How are you, Diane? Really? I'm finding my way, I said. It hurts, knowing what Matthew thinks of me. But I'm not going back to that life. Good. Thomas would be proud. That night I received a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, assuming it was Matthew using someone else's phone. But something made me open it. Grandma, it's Emma. I'm using Mrs. Wilson's phone from next door. I miss you. Noah does too. Daddy says you're never coming back. Is that true? My heart shattered. I read the message 3 times before responding. I miss you too, sweetheart. So much. I'm not coming back right now, but that doesn't mean I won't see you again. I love you and Noah more than all the stars in the sky. Where are you? I'm in Paris. It's a beautiful city in France. Like in Ratatouille? I smiled through tears. Just like that, only fewer talking rats. Mom says you hate us now, that you're trying to make us homeless. My hands shook with anger. How dare Lauren put that on her child? Emma, listen to me. I could never hate you or Noah. Ever. And I'm not trying to make anyone homeless. Your parents and I have grown-up problems to work out, but none of it is your fault. I promise. Can I call you sometimes? Of course you can. Anytime. But maybe you should ask your parents first. They'll say no. Then we'll find another way. I promise. I love you, Emma. I love you too, Grandma. I clutched the phone to my chest and cried, really cried for the first time since I'd left. Not for Matthew, not for the money or the house, but for Emma and Noah, caught in the middle of a mess they didn't create and couldn't understand. The next day I received another email from Eleanor. This one had a different tone. Diane, Matthew came to my office today, alone. He asked to speak with me privately about a possible resolution. He seemed different, more humble. He mentioned that Emma had somehow contacted you and that he didn't know how to handle the children's grief. He asked if you would be willing to have a phone call, just about the children, not about the house. I stared at the email for a long time, conflicted. Was this a genuine olive branch or another manipulation? What does your gut tell you? Catherine asked when I showed her the email. That he's desperate, that he'll say anything to get me to back down. Then you have your answer. I replied to Eleanor, no direct contact yet. If he wants to discuss arrangements for the children, he can do it through you. A day later, she sent his proposal. He wanted to set up regular video calls between me and the children. Supervised at first, then independent as things calmed down. He also wanted to know when I planned to return to the U.S. What's your response? Eleanor asked. Yes to the video calls, but they need to be independent from the start. I won't have him or Lauren monitoring our conversations. As for returning to the U.S., that's not up for discussion right now. That evening, I received my first video call from the children. Matthew's face appeared first, tight and uncomfortable. Mom, he said stiffly, the kids are excited to talk to you. I'm excited to talk to them too, I said, keeping my voice neutral. He nodded and moved away. Emma's face filled the screen, Noah peering over her shoulder. Grandma, can you see us? We're in the kitchen. Dad said we can talk to you for 10 minutes. I can see you, sweetheart. You both look so big already. For 10 precious minutes, I listened to them chatter about school and friends and the snow fort they'd built. Neither mentioned the house situation, for which I was grateful. As our time wound down, Emma's face grew serious. "When are you coming home, Grandma?" "I'm not sure yet, honey, but I'll let you know, okay? Dad says it's because you're mad at them." "It's complicated, Emma, but I'm never mad at you or Noah. Never." Matthew's voice came from off-screen. "Time's up, kids." "I love you both," I said quickly. "So much." "Love you too, Grandma," they chorused before the screen went dark. I sat back, wiping tears from my cheeks. It was a start. A small one, but a start. Eleanor called the next day. "Matthew's lawyer has submitted a more reasonable proposal. They want to refinance the house and buy out your share at market value, but they need time to secure financing." "How much time?" "They're asking for 60 days. I thought about it. 30. And I want everything in writing, with penalties if they miss deadlines. I'll draft it up." Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from Matthew's number. "Thank you for talking to the kids. They've been better since. I know you hate me right now, and maybe you should, but they miss you. We all do." I didn't respond. Words were cheap. Matthew had proven that already. January in Paris was cold but beautiful. Catherine introduced me to her book club, a group of lively women who embraced me immediately. I started taking French lessons 3 times a week with a patient teacher named Philippe, who never laughed at my terrible accent. Slowly, I built a routine. Mornings for French lessons, afternoons for exploring the city, evenings for reading or talking with Catherine. I video called Emma and Noah twice a week, their faces the only link to my old life. I wasn't happy exactly. The pain was still there. A dull ache that flared when I saw families together or when something reminded me of Thomas. But I was content, building something new. Eleanor kept me updated on the legal proceedings. Matthew and Lauren had secured preliminary approval for refinancing, but needed to improve their credit score before final approval. They'd made the first mortgage payment on time, a miracle in itself. "They're trying," Eleanor said. "I'll give them that." "Trying doesn't erase what they did," I replied. "No, it doesn't, but it's something." I waited until the first week of January, not out of kindness, but because I wanted the silence to stretch. I wanted them to sit in it. Cold nights, overdue bills, no idea where I'd gone or if I was ever coming back. Then I mailed the letter. Not an email, not a text, not a call. A real letter sealed in a plain white envelope with Matthew's name on the front in my handwriting. I knew he'd recognize it. I paid extra for next day delivery, and then I waited. It didn't take long. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with an incoming video call from him. I didn't answer. A minute later, another from Lauren. Then her text. "How dare you?" I smiled and set the phone down on the coffee table. I'd written the letter with care. No rage, no insults, just truth. Hard, uncomfortable truth. I detailed every dollar I'd contributed, every payment I made, every sacrifice they'd forgotten. I wrote about the night I overheard them, the power outage, the silence, the lies. And then I wrote the final paragraph. This house was a gift. So was I. You lost both. You can either refinance the mortgage on your own or sell and downsize. Either way, I'm done covering for people who only see me as a burden. Consider this your final Christmas gift. Matthew called again and again. I finally answered on the 3rd try. "What were you thinking?" he snapped. "You mailed that letter like this. You gave me no choice. You humiliated us. You humiliated me first, repeatedly." "We didn't mean it." "Yes, you did." I kept my voice steady. "And now you get to live with it. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I gave you exactly what you asked for. I disappeared." He paused, and for a second I thought I heard him choke up. You blindsided us, Mom. No, I said softly. You just weren't paying attention. I ended the call before he could respond. I sat back on the couch, took a deep breath, and looked out the window at the narrow Parisian street below. A couple walked by, laughing. A man in a scarf carried a baguette under one arm. Life kept moving. I hadn't thought about revenge when I wrote that letter. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming something that had been chipped away at for years. My worth. That letter wasn't written to hurt. It was written to end the bleeding. To stop pretending that love means letting yourself be drained dry. Later that night, I got one more message from Lauren. Just one sentence. You've ruined us. I read it twice, then deleted it without replying. Their ruin wasn't my doing. It was their entitlement, their manipulation, their belief that I'd keep giving no matter how cruel they became. My only crime was finally saying no. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat by the window, and opened the little notebook I'd started keeping. At the top of the next page, I wrote one word, freedom, and just below it, another. Finally. I hadn't planned on responding. I really hadn't. But when Matthew sent that last message, you owe us at least a conversation, something inside me snapped. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, lips pressed tight. Then I called him. 1 ring, 2. He picked up. You finally decided to talk. This isn't a conversation, I said. It's clarity. We're your family, Mom. You're the people who watched me cook, clean, pay, babysit, and still whispered that I was in the way. He went quiet. You said the greatest gift would be if I just died. Remember? I didn't mean it like that. But you said it. And you meant it enough that Lauren said it in front of you, and you didn't stop her. You're twisting everything. No, I said calmly. I'm finally seeing it straight. We didn't ask you to leave like that. You ghosted us, left the kids confused. I left letters for each of them. I made sure they'd never blame themselves. Can you say the same? We're drowning, Mom. The mortgage is underwater. Lauren's mom backed out of helping. We're selling furniture to stay afloat. You built a house on a foundation I paid for, and now that I've stepped away, it's collapsing. That's not on me. So what? You just abandoned us? No, I'm holding you accountable. We're not bad people. You're not evil, I said. But you were selfish. You were entitled. And you treated me like a live-in ATM with no feelings. That's over. What do you want from us? Nothing. That's the point, he sighed. So that's it. No, you'll hear from Eleanor. She's drawing up the documents. The house will be sold. You'll get your share after I take mine back. What's left is yours to rebuild with. What's left? There's barely anything left. Then maybe you'll finally understand what it's like to start over. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Relief. I stood up, walked to the mirror above the fireplace, and looked at myself for a long time. Not to check my hair or makeup, just to see who I was now. Not a ghost, not a doormat, not the woman who quietly disappeared to make others comfortable. I was someone who drew a line and stood behind it. I was someone who stopped bleeding for people who never offered a bandage. That night I went out for dinner alone, a little restaurant near the Rue Claire. The waiter asked if I was celebrating something. I almost said no. Then I smiled. Yes, I am. I didn't explain. I didn't know him that. I didn't know anyone anything anymore. When I got back to the apartment, I poured a glass of wine and sat down to write in my notebook again. This time I titled the page, What I Will Never Do Again. I wrote, I will never beg to be respected. I will never explain myself to people who only listen to respond. I will never call it love if it leaves me empty. My phone buzzed once more. A photo from Matthew, the Christmas tree half lit, ornaments sparse, kids asleep in the background. No message, no caption, just the image. I stared at it for a few seconds, then turned my phone off and closed the notebook. I wasn't swimming back. That bridge had burned, and I didn't miss the smoke. A week later, Eleanor emailed with news. Matthew's financing fell through. The bank isn't confident in their ability to make payments. They've agreed to sell the house. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt hollow. They're asking if you'll allow them 60 days to find a new place and move out, Eleanor continued. They've also requested that you not attend any of the showings or closing. They say it would be too difficult for the children. I thought about it. They can have the 60 days, and I won't come to the showings, but I want to be at the closing. It's my house, too. Eleanor agreed to present my terms. That night, I video called the children. Emma answered, her face somber. Grandma, we're moving. I know, sweetheart. Dad says it's because you don't want us to live here anymore. My heart sank. That's not true, Emma. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements about money and houses, but it has nothing to do with you or Noah. We're going to live in an apartment. It's small. Noah and I have to share a room. Sometimes change can be scary, I said gently. But you know what? When I moved to Paris, I was scared too, and now I like it here. Really? Really, and you'll make your new place special too. I know it. She seemed to consider this. Will you come see us in our new place? I'd like that very much, when you're all settled. Promise? I promise. After we hung up, I sat for a long time, thinking about promises. I'd promised Thomas I'd be strong. I'd promised myself I wouldn't be used anymore. I'd promised Emma I'd visit. Some promises were harder to keep than others. The following week, Catherine suggested we take a trip to the south of France. You need to get out of your head, she said. See more of this beautiful country. We spent 5 days in Nice, walking along the promenade, eating fresh seafood, and talking about everything except Matthew. The Mediterranean sparkled in the winter sun, a shade of blue so perfect it seemed unreal. On our last night there, sitting on the balcony of our hotel room, Catherine asked the question she'd been avoiding. Will you ever forgive him, Diane? I watched a boat move slowly across the horizon. I don't know. He's your only child. And I'm his only mother. That didn't stop him. She nodded. Fair enough. I miss who I thought he was, I admitted. The son who loved me, who respected me. I don't know if that person ever really existed. People can change, she said. For better or worse. I'm not ready to find out which direction he's changing. When we returned to Paris, there was an email waiting from Eleanor. The house was officially on the market. She'd attached photos of the listing. I barely recognized it. They'd staged it beautifully, removing all traces of the life we'd lived there. No toys scattered on the floor, no mismatched furniture, no family photos on the walls. It looked like a magazine spread. Perfect and soulless. The realtor expects it to sell quickly, Eleanor wrote. The market in your area is hot right now. I closed the email without replying. I didn't care anymore. Let them sell it. Let them move on. I was already gone. February brought unexpected news. Eleanor called on a Tuesday morning, her voice unusually tense. Diane, there's something you should know. I was reviewing Matthew's financial disclosures, and something caught my eye. He received an inheritance 3 years ago from his grandmother on Thomas's side. Martha? She left him money? Quite a bit, nearly $50,000. I frowned. I didn't know that. According to the will, it was supposed to be split between Matthew and you. Equal shares. My breath caught. Are you saying he kept my portion? It appears so. The executor sent checks to both of you, but yours was sent to Matthew's address since you were living there. He cashed both. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just opportunistic theft. This was premeditated, calculated. What do we do? I asked. We can file a claim against his portion of the house proceeds. With interest, your share would be about $27,000. Do it, I said without hesitation. And Eleanor? Don't warn him. Let him find out at closing. She hesitated. Are you sure? This could damage any chance of reconciliation. What reconciliation? He stole from me. Repeatedly. Intentionally. He wished me dead, Eleanor. There's no coming back from that. After we hung up, I paced the apartment, anger building with each step. I thought I'd processed everything, but this new betrayal reopened wounds I thought were healing. I picked up my phone, finger hovering over Matthew's contact. I wanted to confront him, to hear him try to explain away this latest theft. Instead, I deleted his number. Some bridges should stay burned. The house sold 3 weeks later for slightly above asking price. The closing was set for March 15th. Do you still want to attend? Eleanor asked. Absolutely. Matthew has requested that you reconsider. He says it will be awkward and uncomfortable for everyone. I'll bet he does, I said dryly. But I'll be there. This is my closure too. I booked my flight back to the U.S., a round trip this time. I would attend the closing, visit the children in their new home, and then return to Paris. I wasn't ready to move back permanently. Maybe I never would be. Catherine drove me to the airport, concern etched on her face. Are you sure about this? Seeing them again? No, I admitted. But I need to do it anyway. For me. She hugged me tight. Call me if you need an escape plan. I will. The flight back was different this time. I wasn't running away. I was walking back in with my head held high, facing the mess I'd left behind, but on my terms. Eleanor met me at the airport, her familiar face a welcome sight. Ready? She asked. I nodded. As I'll ever be. The closing was scheduled for 2 p.m. the next day. I spent the morning in Eleanor's office, reviewing the final paperwork. The numbers were better than I'd expected. After paying off the mortgage and accounting for my stolen inheritance, I would walk away with just over $140,000. Matthew and Lauren would get about $60,000. Not enough to buy another house in this market, Eleanor noted, but a decent start somewhere else. At 1:45, we arrived at the title company. I was nervous, but determined. This was the end of a chapter I never wanted to revisit. Matthew and Lauren were already there, sitting stiffly on opposite sides of the waiting room. Neither looked up when I entered. The closing agent called us into a conference room. 6 people around a table. Me, Eleanor, Matthew, Lauren, their lawyer, and the agent. The tension was thick enough to cut. Papers were passed, explained, signed. Matthew's signature was tight and angry. Lauren's was shaky. Neither spoke directly to me. When the agent mentioned the lien against Matthew's proceeds for the inheritance, his head snapped up. What lien? What inheritance? Eleanor explained calmly, laying out the evidence. The color drained from Matthew's face. That was a mistake, he stammered. I thought it was all for me. The check had my name on it, I said, my first words of the meeting. Just like the house had my name on it. Funny how you keep forgetting that. He glared at me, then signed the acknowledgement without further protest. When the last paper was signed, the agent smiled too brightly. Congratulations, the sale is complete. No one returned her smile. As we gathered our copies, Matthew finally looked at me. Happy now? You've taken everything. No, I said quietly. I've taken back what was mine. There's a difference. Lauren stood abruptly. Let's go, Matthew. We're done here. He followed her to the door, then paused. The kids still want to see you, despite everything. I'll be there tomorrow at noon, as agreed. He nodded stiffly and left. Eleanor touched my arm. "You did it, Diane. It's over." But it wasn't over. Not really. The papers were signed. The money would be transferred. But the emotional wreckage remained. The next day I would see my grandchildren in their new home. A home they had because I'd finally stood up for myself. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad either. Just resolved. That night in my hotel room, I opened my notebook one last time. At the top of a fresh page, I wrote, "I didn't just walk away. I walked toward myself." I stared at those words, then added one more line beneath them. "Let them learn from the echo of my absence." The next day, I stood outside a small apartment complex on the edge of town, clutching a bag with carefully wrapped gifts. My heart pounded as I checked the apartment number Eleanor had given me. Building C, Unit 304. So different from the sprawling two-story home they'd lost. So much more appropriate for what they could actually afford. I took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened almost immediately, as if someone had been watching for me. Emma launched herself into my arms. "Grandma, you came!" I hugged her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Of course I came. I promised, didn't I?" Noah peeked around the door frame, shy at first, then ran to join the hug. "We got bunk beds," he announced proudly. "I get the top one 'cause I'm brave." "Very brave," I agreed, fighting back tears. They looked the same, but somehow different. A little older, a little more cautious. Lauren appeared behind them, arms crossed. She'd lost weight, and the designer clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a plain sweater. Her face was carefully blank. "Come in," she said stiffly. "They've been waiting all morning." The apartment was small but clean. Boxes still lined the walls, and the furniture was a mismatched collection. Some from the old house, some clearly second-hand. The Christmas tree was gone, though a few ornaments hung from a potted plant in the corner, a sad attempt at festivity. "Where's Matthew?" I asked, setting down my bag. "Working," Lauren said shortly. "He got a job at Harrington's, in sales." Harrington's was a local furniture store, a far cry from the tech startup he'd been trying to launch. "I see. He doesn't get off until 6, Lauren added. "If you want to see him, you'll have to come back." "I'm here to see the children," I said evenly. "As arranged." She nodded, a quick, jerky movement. "They've had lunch already. I'll be in the bedroom if they need anything." With that, she disappeared down the hall, closing a door firmly behind her. Emma tugged at my hand. "Come see our room, Grandma. I decorated my side with all the pictures you sent from Paris." I followed them to a small bedroom with bunk beds against one wall. Emma's side was indeed covered with postcards I'd mailed and pictures she'd printed from our video calls. Noah's side featured superhero posters and a shelf of action figures. "It's wonderful," I said sincerely. "You've made it so cozy." "It's smaller than our old room," Noah said, "but Daddy says it's just temporary, until we get back on our feet." I nodded, wondering what else Matthew had told them. We spent the afternoon playing board games at the small kitchen table. Emma showed me her school projects, and Noah demonstrated his new karate moves. They chattered about their new school, their new friends, their new routines. "Mommy cries a lot," Noah said suddenly during a lull in conversation. "At night when she thinks we're sleeping." Emma kicked him under the table. "We're not supposed to talk about that." "It's okay," I said gently. "Moving can be hard for grown-ups, too." "Daddy says we have to be extra good now because money is tight," Emma said, lowering her voice. "He says we can't ask for toys or treats for a while." My heart ached. Children shouldn't have to worry about such things. "That's why I brought presents," I said, retrieving the bag I'd brought. "Nothing extravagant, just some things I thought you might like." For Noah, I'd found a detailed model airplane kit. This was the kind your grandfather loved to build, I told him. Maybe your dad can help you put it together. For Emma, a beautiful journal with a Parisian scene on the cover. For all your stories and secrets, I said, everyone needs a private place for their thoughts. Thanks, Grandma, they chorused, genuinely delighted with gifts that would have seemed modest compared to what they were used to. We were still admiring their presents when the front door opened. Matthew stood in the doorway, still in his work clothes, khaki pants and a blue polo with the Harrington's logo. He looked tired, defeated, older than his 35 years. "Mom," he said, his voice flat, "didn't expect you to still be here." "We were having such a good time," I said, keeping my tone light for the children's sake. I lost track of the hours. "Kids, go wash up for dinner," he said. "I need to talk to Grandma." They hesitated, sensing the tension. "Go on," I said gently. "I'll say goodbye before I leave." Once they were gone, Matthew sat heavily in the chair across from me. "So you got what you wanted?" "This isn't what I wanted, Matthew." "No? What did you want then? To punish us? To watch us suffer?" "I wanted respect," I said quietly. "I wanted to be treated like a person, not an ATM or a burden." He looked away. "We're barely making it. The money from the house barely covered our debts. Lauren's working at Target now, night shifts. I'm sorry it's hard," I said, and I meant it. "But you made choices, Matthew. Years of choices that led here." "I know," he said, surprising me. "I've had a lot of time to think about it. Lying awake at night, wondering how I'm going to pay next month's rent. Wondering if I can afford Emma's dance lessons or Noah's inhaler. And I was wrong. About a lot of things. I took you for granted. I took your money. I said things," he trailed off. "Horrible things I can never take back." I waited, unwilling to make this easy for him. "That day, when you heard us, I was stressed out of my mind. The business was failing. We were drowning in debt. I just found out our biggest investor was pulling out. I took it out on you because you were an easy target, because you always forgave me." "Not this time," I said softly. "No," he agreed. "Not this time." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of years of resentment and hurt between us. "The inheritance," I finally said. "Why, Matthew? Why take what was meant for me?" His face flushed with shame. "Because I could. Because it was easy. Because I convinced myself you didn't need it, and we did." "Do you know what hurts the most?" I asked. "Not the money, not even the words. It's that you became someone who could do these things and feel justified. That's not how your father and I raised you." "I know," he whispered. "I know." Lauren appeared in the hallway, arms still crossed defensively. "Dinner's almost ready. Are you staying, Diane?" Her tone made it clear what answer she preferred. "No," I said, standing. "I should go. I promised Catherine I'd call tonight." "Catherine?" Matthew asked. "My friend in Paris, the one I'm staying with." "So you're going back," he said. Not a question. "Yes, I have a life there now. Friends, French lessons, a book club. The kids will be disappointed. I'll still video call them, and maybe they can visit me someday. Paris is beautiful in the spring." He laughed bitterly. "On what money, Mom? We can barely afford groceries." Before I could respond, Emma and Noah came running back in. "Are you leaving, Grandma?" Emma asked, her face falling. "I am, sweetheart. But I'll call you tomorrow, okay? And we can write letters too. Real ones with stamps like treasure." "Will you come back?" Noah asked, his bottom lip trembling. "Of course I will. This isn't goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for now." I hugged them both, holding them a little longer than necessary. Then I straightened up and faced Matthew and Lauren. "Thank you for letting me see them," I said formally. "It means a lot." Matthew nodded. Lauren said nothing. As I gathered my coat, Matthew followed me to the door. "Mom," he said, his voice low so the children couldn't hear. "I know I have no right to ask, but we're really struggling. The kids need—" "No!" I cut him off. "I won't be your safety net anymore, Matthew. You'll figure it out. People do." His face hardened. "Right, of course. Silly of me to ask." "I'm not being cruel," I said. "I'm being honest. You need to stand on your own feet, for your sake as much as mine." "Easy for you to say from your Paris apartment." I sighed. "I earned my peace, Matthew. Now you need to earn yours." I left without looking back, though I heard Emma calling goodbye from the window as I walked to my waiting taxi. That night, in my hotel room, I cried. For the grandchildren I was leaving behind. For the son I'd lost long before I ever left that house. For the family we could have been if greed and entitlement hadn't poisoned everything. But I didn't cry for my decision. That, at least, I was sure of. The next day, before my flight back to Paris, I met Eleanor for coffee. "How was it?" she asked. "Seeing them in their new place?" "Hard," I admitted. "The children are confused. Matthew's angry. Lauren's bitter." "And you?" "Sad, but resolute." She nodded. "I've drawn up the paperwork transferring your portion of the sale proceeds to your French bank account. Once that's done, you'll have no financial ties to Matthew at all." "Good," I said. "That's what I want." "Diane," she said hesitantly, "Thomas would understand. You know that, right? You didn't fail him by protecting yourself." I blinked back tears. "How did you know I needed to hear that?" "Because I knew Thomas, and I know you." She squeezed my hand. "He'd be proud of you for finally standing up for yourself." My flight left that afternoon. As the plane took off, I didn't look back at the city below. I looked forward, toward Paris, toward my future, toward whatever came next. Catherine met me at the airport with a warm embrace and no questions. She let me process in silence during the taxi ride home, respecting that I needed time. It wasn't until we were back in her apartment, glasses of wine in hand, that she finally asked, "So how was it?" "Like visiting the aftermath of a natural disaster," I said. "Devastating, but inevitable." "And Matthew?" "Working at a furniture store. Humbled, but still expecting me to rescue him." "And did you?" "No," I said firmly. "That part of our relationship is over." She nodded approvingly. "Good. And the children?" "That's the hardest part," I admitted. "They're innocent in all this. They don't understand why their world has changed." "Children are resilient," Catherine said. "And they have you, even from a distance. That matters." I sipped my wine, letting the familiar comfort of Catherine's apartment wrap around me. I keep waiting to feel guilty, to feel like I should go back and fix everything, but I don't. "Because you didn't break it," she said simply. "They did." That night I slept better than I had in weeks. The visit had provided a kind of closure I hadn't realized I needed. I'd seen the consequences of my actions, and theirs. I'd looked my son in the eye and held my boundary. I'd hugged my grandchildren and promised them I'd still be in their lives. I'd done what I needed to do. March melted into April, and Paris bloomed. Catherine and I took long walks along the Seine, watching the city transform. We sat in cafes and talked for hours, sometimes about Thomas, sometimes about my new life, rarely about Matthew. I'd settled into a routine. French lessons 3 times a week, book club on Thursdays, video calls with Emma and Noah every Sunday. I'd even started volunteering at a local English language library, helping with children's story hour. The money from the house sale gave me freedom I hadn't had in years. I opened a new bank account, just for me, and started planning a trip to Italy in the summer. I bought clothes that fit my new life. Comfortable, but stylish. Nothing like the faded cardigans and sensible shoes I'd worn in that in-law suite. I was becoming someone new. Or maybe I was becoming myself again, the woman I'd been before grief and manipulation had dulled my edges. One bright Tuesday morning, as I sat at a cafe near the Tuileries, my phone rang. An American number I didn't recognize. "Hello? Mrs. Bennett? This is Dr. Sanderson from Memorial Hospital. I'm calling about your son, Matthew." My heart stuttered. "What happened? Is he all right?" "He's stable now. He suffered a severe panic attack that mimicked heart attack symptoms. He was brought in by ambulance early this morning." "A panic attack?" "Yes. Quite common in cases of extreme stress. He's asked me to contact you." "I'm in Paris," I said. "I can't just—" "He's not asking you to come," the doctor interrupted gently. "He just wanted you to know. And he left a message. Would you like to hear it?" "Yes," I said, my hand tightening around the phone. He said, "Tell her I understand now. Tell her I'm sorry." I closed my eyes. "Thank you for letting me know. Is there anything I can do from here?" "Just knowing someone cared enough to call seemed to help him," the doctor said. "He's being discharged today. His wife is with him." After we hung up, I sat for a long time, watching people pass by. Matthew was suffering, really suffering, and for the first time, he wasn't asking me to fix it. I called Lauren's cell phone, not expecting her to answer. To my surprise, she did. "What do you want, Diane?" Her voice was tired, stretched thin. "I heard about Matthew. The hospital called me." A pause. "He's fine, just stress." "Lauren, I'm not calling to judge or lecture. I just wanted to check on him." "On all of you." She sighed heavily. "We're surviving. Barely. Matthew's working 2 jobs now. The panic attack happened after a 60-hour work week. I'm sorry it's so hard." "Are you?" she asked bitterly. "Isn't this what you wanted? Us brought low?" "No," I said firmly. "I wanted boundaries. I wanted respect. I never wanted suffering." "Well, that's what you got. Matthew barely sleeps. I'm working night shifts. We had to pull Emma out of dance class. Noah cries for his old room. So congratulations, I guess." "Lauren," I said carefully, "what happened wasn't punishment, it was consequence. There's a difference." "Easy for you to say from Paris." "You're right. It is easier for me, because I made different choices." She was quiet for a moment. "The kids miss you." "I miss them too, every day." "Matthew won't admit it, but he misses you too. He keeps that stupid airplane model you gave Noah on his nightstand. Won't let me move it." I didn't know what to say to that. "I have to go," she said suddenly. "My shift starts in an hour." "Lauren, wait. How are the children, really?" She hesitated. "They're adjusting. Emma's having trouble sleeping. Noah's more clingy. They ask about you a lot. I'm still video calling them every week." "I know. It helps." Another pause. "Look, I know I haven't been fair to you. I was angry and scared, and it was easier to blame you than admit we messed up." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from her. "Thank you for saying that," I said quietly. "Doesn't change anything," she added quickly. "But yeah, I should go." "Take care of them," I said. "All of them." After we hung up, I ordered another coffee and pulled out the notebook I always carried now. I wrote down the conversation, word for word, trying to process what it meant. Lauren, acknowledging their mistakes. Matthew, working himself into the hospital. The children, caught in the middle. I thought back to my last entry. Let them learn from the echo of my absence. They were learning, but at what cost? That evening I discussed it with Catherine over dinner. You're not responsible for their struggle, she reminded me. They made choices, just like you did. I know, I said, but I can't help thinking about the children. What are you considering, Diane? I don't know. Not going back, certainly. But maybe something, some kind of olive branch. You're too kind, she said, shaking her head. After everything they did. Not kind, I corrected. Just human. They're still my family, even with all the hurt between us. Sleep on it, Catherine advised. Don't make decisions from guilt or pity. I took her advice. But that night, I dreamed of Thomas. We were walking in our old garden, the roses in full bloom. You always had the bigger heart, he said in the dream. It's why I loved you so much. They hurt me, Thomas, I told him. Deeply. I know, he said. And you were right to protect yourself. But now you're safe. Now you're strong. Now you can decide what comes next from a place of power, not fear. I woke with tears on my cheeks, but clarity in my mind. The next day, I called Eleanor. I need your help with something, I said. Something for the children. 2 days later, I received confirmation that everything was arranged. I sent Matthew a text message, the first direct communication since I'd left his apartment. Check your email. Not for you, for Emma and Noah. An hour later, my phone rang. Matthew. Mom, what is this? College funds, I said simply. For the children. Eleanor has set up educational trusts that will mature when they turn 18. I funded them with $20,000 each to start. I don't understand. It's simple, Matthew. I'm not bailing you out. I'm investing in their future. The money can only be used for education expenses. You and Lauren are the trustees until they're of age, but you can't access the funds for any other purpose. Silence. Why? He finally asked. After everything? Because they're innocent in all this. Because they deserve a future that isn't mortgaged by the past. Because I'm their grandmother, and this is what I can do for them from here. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just make sure they know I love them. That I'm thinking about their future, even when I'm not there. Mom, his voice broke. I'm sorry. For everything. I know it's not enough, but I am. I see it all so clearly now. How I took and never gave back. How I blamed you for my failures. How I let Lauren treat you like you didn't matter. I let him talk, let him release the words he needed to say. I was so angry when you left, he continued. So sure you were punishing us out of spite, but you were just standing up for yourself. Like Dad always told you to. Yes, I said softly. That's exactly what I was doing. I understand now. What it feels like to struggle, to worry about paying bills, to feel like you're drowning and no one will throw you a rope. It's hard, I acknowledged. Really hard. But we're doing it, he said, a note of pride creeping into his voice. Somehow, day by day. Lauren's even talking about going back to school, getting a degree in nursing. That's wonderful, Matthew. We're different people now, Mom. I'm not asking you to forgive and forget. I'm not asking you to come back. I just want you to know that we're trying to be better, to do better. I believe you, I said, and I was surprised to find that I did. The kids would love to see you again, when you're ready, if you're ever ready. I'd like that, I said. Maybe this summer. I could visit for a week or so. They'd love that, he said, his voice lighter than I'd heard it in years. We all would. After we hung up, I sat on Catherine's balcony, watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle in the distance. The conversation with Matthew hadn't erased the past. Nothing could do that. But it had opened a small door to a possible future, one where boundaries were respected, where amends were made through actions, not just words. One where I could love my family without losing myself. The final papers came through on a Tuesday morning. The apartment was quiet, except for the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. I sat with the documents in front of me, rereading every line. It was official now. The house was sold, the debt settled, the accounts cleared. Matthew and Lauren had received what was left. It wasn't much, but it was fair. My part had been removed cleanly and legally. The children's trusts were established and funded, all the paperwork of the life dismantled and rebuilt. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad either, just still. I packed the folder, slid it into my desk drawer, and checked the clock again. I had a French lesson in an hour. As I gathered my books and notes, my phone buzzed with a new email from Emma using Matthew's account. Dear Grandma, Daddy helped me write this email. I miss you a lot, but I'm glad you're happy in Paris. My teacher says Paris is the city of light. Is that true? Do the lights stay on all night? Noah says hi too. He built the airplane with Daddy. It took 3 whole days. Mom is working at the hospital now. She wears blue clothes called scrubs. Daddy works a lot, but he reads to us every night. I'm learning to make my own lunch for school. Love you to the moon and back, Emma. Attached was a photo of Emma and Noah standing in front of their bunk beds, grinning widely. Emma was missing a front tooth. Noah was holding the model airplane. I wrote back immediately. Dear Emma and Noah, yes, Paris is called the City of Light, but not because the lights stay on all night, though many do. It's because Paris was one of the first European cities to use gas street lighting, and because during the Age of Enlightenment, Paris was a center of education and ideas. I'm so proud of you for learning to make your own lunch. That's a big step toward being independent. And Noah, the airplane looks wonderful. Your grandfather would be so impressed. I miss you both to the moon and back and around the stars, too. Love, Grandma. I added a photo I'd taken just yesterday. Me in front of the Louvre Pyramid, smiling in the spring sunshine. After sending the email, I gathered my things and headed out for my French lesson. The streets of Paris were busy with midday traffic, tourists consulting maps, locals hurrying to lunch appointments. Philippe, my French teacher, greeted me with the customary kisses on both cheeks. Bonjour, Diane. Vous êtes rayonnante aujourd'hui. Merci, I replied, pleased that I understood without translation. C'est un beau jour. Oui, très beau, he agreed. Shall we begin? We spent the next hour conjugating verbs and practicing conversations about daily life. My French was improving steadily, though I still stumbled over pronouns and tenses. You are making excellent progress, Philippe said as our lesson ended. Soon you will be dreaming in French. I laughed. I'm not sure about that, but I can order dinner without embarrassing myself now. Progress is progress, he said with a warm smile. À jeudi. À jeudi, I echoed, gathering my books. As I walked back to Catherine's apartment, I found myself thinking about progress, about how far I'd come since that cold December night when I'd overheard words that changed everything. I'd lost a home but found my voice. I'd left behind a family that took me for granted and built a community that valued me. I'd transformed from a woman who folded towels in silence to one who navigated Paris with growing confidence. Catherine was out when I returned, a note on the counter saying she'd gone to her book club and would be back for dinner. I made myself a cup of tea and settled on the balcony with a novel I'd been reading, in French, slowly and with a dictionary at hand. My phone rang, interrupting my reading. Eleanor. Just checking in, she said when I answered. How are you, Diane? Good. I said, and meant it. Really good. The trusts are all set up. Matthew signed the final paperwork yesterday. I know. He emailed me. How do you feel about it all, now that the dust has settled? I considered the question carefully. Like I've finally found solid ground, like I can breathe again. And Matthew? Lauren? The children? We're finding our way, I said. It's different now. Better in some ways. We're talking more honestly, setting boundaries. They're learning to stand on their own feet. Thomas would be proud of you, Eleanor said softly. He always worried that they took advantage of your kindness. He was right to worry, I acknowledged, but I think he'd be proud of all of us now. Of me for standing firm. Of Matthew for finally growing up. After we hung up, I returned to my book but found I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept circling back to the journey of the past few months. The pain, the freedom, the rebuilding. Catherine returned around 6, carrying a bottle of wine and a baguette. Simple dinner tonight? She suggested. I'm too tired to cook. Perfect, I agreed. We sat on the balcony, eating bread and cheese, drinking wine, watching the sky turn golden over the Parisian rooftops. I've been thinking, Catherine said after a comfortable silence. This apartment is too big for just me, and you've been here nearly 4 months now. Are you kicking me out? I asked, only half joking. Quite the opposite. I'm proposing you stay, permanently, as a proper roommate, not a guest. We could split the rent. You could have the second bedroom as your own, to decorate however you like. I blinked in surprise. Are you serious? Completely. You're good company, Diane, and I think Paris suits you. I've been looking at apartments, I admitted. But everything is so expensive. So stay here, she said simply, unless you're planning to go back. No, I said quickly. I'm not going back, not to live, but I am planning to visit this summer, for the children. As you should, but your home can be here, if you want it to be. Home, such a loaded word. For so long, home had been wherever Thomas was. Then it had been that sterile in-law suite in a house where I wasn't welcome. Now it could be this sunlit apartment with a friend who respected my space and valued my company. I'd like that, I said finally. Very much. Catherine raised her glass. To new beginnings. I clinked my glass against hers. To new beginnings. That night I sent a text message to Matthew with a photo of the view from the balcony. I'm staying in Paris, making it official, but I'll visit this summer, 2 weeks in July, if that works for everyone. His reply came quickly. It works. The kids will be thrilled. We all will. And then a second message. I'm proud of you, Mom, for finding your happiness, for not letting us take it from you. I read it twice, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. Not sad tears, not angry tears, just the release of something long held, finally acknowledged. I typed my response carefully. Thank you, Matthew. That means more than you know. The next morning I woke early. Catherine was still asleep as I made coffee and carried it to the balcony. The city was just stirring to life below me. Shopkeepers raising their shutters. Early commuters hurrying to the metro. A young couple walking hand in hand, heads bent together in private conversation. I pulled out my notebook one last time. At the top of a fresh page, I wrote the date. Below it, I began. Today is the first day of my new life. Not the one I planned, not the one I expected, but mine. Chosen freely, lived fully. Thomas, my love, I wish you were here to see it, to see me, standing tall again. But I feel you sometimes, in the moments between breaths, in the space between heartbeats, guiding me, loving me, reminding me that I was always stronger than I knew. Matthew is finding his way. Lauren, too. They're learning the lessons we all must learn eventually, that actions have consequences, that love without respect is hollow, that true strength comes from standing on your own feet. The children are resilient, as children so often are. They're adapting to their new reality with more grace than the adults around them. They'll be okay. We'll all be okay. As for me, I'm learning French. I'm making friends. I'm discovering what Diane wants, what Diane needs, what makes Diane happy. It turns out, what I needed wasn't revenge or punishment or even justice. What I needed was to be seen, to be heard, to matter. I matter now, to myself most of all, and that has made all the difference. I closed the notebook and looked out over the city that had become my home. The sun was rising higher now, catching on windows and rooftops, turning ordinary buildings into gleaming beacons. The city of light, indeed. As the train of my life rolled forward, so did I, not toward revenge, not toward regret, but toward peace. The kind you earn, not the kind you beg for, the kind that no one can take away. If you followed my story this far, I want to thank you. Sometimes we need to hear that it's okay to walk away, that it's okay to demand respect, that it's okay to start over no matter your age. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice for your own well-being? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey, please consider watching 2 other stories that viewers have found helpful. I gave my daughter everything until I found her secret account. And after 40 years of marriage, I discovered what my husband really thought of me. Remember, it's never too late to find your voice. It's never too late to begin again.